introduction, I am far from the best epidemiologist in South Florida. I am an epidemiologist in South Florida with many talented fellow professionals.
My resources say you are the best.
I don't want to insult my boss. So, anyway, no, thank you. And it is a real honor to be here, and I'm really pleased to see such an incredible turnout. I've been attending town hall evenings for over 35 years, and when the subject comes down to substance abuse, often we have a very small crowd. But pleased to see the active participation that you have. I wanted to just address what's going on with heroin. What we're seeing here in Key Biscayne is a part of a major national epidemic that has been underway and building for several years. This graph shows the number of estimated heroin users in the United States. The blue line on the top shows the number of people who have used heroin in the past year, and the red line beneath it shows the number of people who have used heroin within the past 30 days. And we see a sharp escalation in the people reporting use. This is from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and it is a major national survey and is considered to be pretty loud in its statistics. What we see is we have now approaching 1 million people who used heroin in the United States last year. And almost half of those, about 448,000, have used heroin at least once within the last 30 days, and many of them many times more than once. So heroin use in itself is dramatically increasing faster than any other substance abuse. In fact, substance abuse in general has either stabilized or we're actually seeing declining trends with most other substances in the number of users. One reason for that is that in the 21st century, substance abuse has become more dangerous, more addictive, and more deadly than any time in my lifetime, which almost expands close to a century. So we are in a very critical issue with changing patterns and much more toxic and dangerous substances and more dangerous patterns of use and use of synthetic substances and novel psychoactive drugs, new things coming from labs in China. But heroin remains probably the mother of all addictions and among our most severe problems. So, of course, pain reliever, narcotic-based medications, among the most powerful pain relievers that we have, but also in the same family of opiate with heroin. Thus, it acts in the brain like heroin. It's, of course, a more precise substance with actual dosage levels measured out and for medical use. And for those in severe need, whether they're cancer patients in their last 1 out of 2 chance of developing an alcohol addiction problem later in their adult lifetime. Now, generally when we think of underage drinking, we think of the bad part is what happens to kids when they drink. Whether they get into accidents, whether they get a DUI, whether they get into fights, whether they get pregnant, yes, that happens, or any of the various consequences that might be related to alcohol-induced behavior. But what we don't think about is the lifelong chronic condition that we're setting up the adolescent brain for at the earliest onset. And every year we can delay the initiation or the first use of alcohol. We see we lower that probability of an adult lifetime alcohol problem. We start with alcohol because, after all, it is the most commonly used drug in our society. But we also can look among marijuana users at a similar trend. Now, this is a little different question, a little different survey, but this is looking at the probability of...
And you all are going to be entertained. The booze is going to be flowing. I was at Stefano's the other day. Stefano's was great enough to provide my foundation with some wine for our fundraiser. And when I was in there talking to them about contributing, they were bringing booze in like crazy. I mean, about truckloads. And I said to him, I said, it must be the season. He got a big smile on his face. He says, this is when we really make our money. So in your homes, the alcohol is going to be extremely accessible. While you're entertaining your friends, make sure your children aren't entertaining their friends with your alcohol, okay? I need to implore you to pay attention to your children. If they're home at night at 3 in the morning and they're throwing up in the restroom, it's not always the flu, even though it's flu season. It's about asking hard questions and being parents. I have a reputation with my kids for being the cop. Well, you know what? Every parent should be a cop when it comes to our kids, because we were all kids once, and kids, their brain, I'm not a doctor, but I know for a fact it's not developed like ours is, and they don't think things through like we did. And they say youth is wasted on the young. They're right. But for you all, I beg of you, watch your kids in these golf carts. They're not allowed in the golf carts. They could get hurt. They could hurt somebody else. And thank you again so much for your attention. I'm going to give you all, if you want to put this in your phones. This is the anonymous, once again, tip line. Goes only to my office. It's 786-775-5900. That's 786-775-5900. Or for my Spanish friends, let me see if I get this right. 786-5900. Thank you all for your attention with this.
Spoke about, she's a parent of a young daughter. Myra's a parent. I'm a coach. I look around the room. I know a lot of parents and neighbors and coaches here. And all this stuff you see, we take this off every day. And the other day, actually, I was in this particular room, and I was fortunate enough to come up, and I wasn't ready for it. And I'm just a regular guy. And the reason I say this is all really intimidating stuff, but we're just regular people, and I don't want you to be intimidated by all this jewelry and stuff. Right here, about where we're standing, I broke my jaw when it was a field. And when I was in 7th grade, there used to be a classroom right across this driveway here in the old church building that was only 2 classrooms in St. Agnes, if you can believe that. And I had my first Say No to Drugs campaign. It was in 7th grade. And I was thinking about this the last couple of days, and it was too late to start. And I've been talking to my 9-year-old about what we're talking about, and he's interested in the topic. And I see there's some young people in the audience today. I saw a 7-year-old that's a buddy of mine. I think I might have coached them, and I was really excited to see that we've got a whole range of people here, and thank you for coming. And I also want to thank, she left already, Melissa, and the Principals Coalition, and the mayor, the police chief, Dr. Paul, and everybody for coming together, because I'm one guy, parent, coach, whatever you want to call me, and I can't do this alone. The chief can't do this alone. We have to approach this from every angle. If there's any mental health professionals here, I need to hear from you, because I honestly need your help, and you're going to hear why in a minute. I'm kind of excited. Sometimes people are calm, but I've heard hundreds and hundreds of 911 calls, and most of them are pretty excited. It takes people a minute to slow down. This guy wasn't very excited. He was high. He was on heroin. And it's a miracle that that 911 call was ever made, and it was a miracle that he was actually able to save his friend's life. And every time he touched him to try to follow the directions of the 911 operator, he reminded the person to take a breath. And I think it's not the first time you've seen this. He sounded very experienced, unfortunately. And for every heroin overdose we've had out here, there's had to have been a friend who's gone with him. We've had 5 confirmed heroin overdoses where we provided Narcan. And people were unconscious and unresponsive, not normal. And we got together, and so we started looking at the numbers, and basically what we found is something I want to share with you. So if you can see that, take a minute and look at those numbers. And the scary thing when I was listening to Dr. Hall's presentation, I was looking up at the chart, I said, God, that chart looks a lot like our chart. This isn't national statistics, this is Dade County statistics, this is Key Biscayne. This is our backyard. And what it is we're running about 100 calls a year on people that are 32 years old and under. And we were running about 10 calls per year, I'm rounding, 10 calls per year for the last 3 or 4 years on suicide, alcohol, and drug-related emergencies. This past year, as you can see, we've got 32 calls for alcohol and drug-related emergencies, and we're up 200% from years past. And Chief Press and I, we could actually go back and forth